The business cards you've held in your hands for a long time. The sacrifices you've made for your children's success. The face you wanted to maintain without getting disheveled. However, when you're old and left alone, these things lose their meaning. All that's left are busy children, friends who are moving away, and hospital treatment cards in an empty house. We must realize this in front of the phone that doesn't ring, and the footsteps that don't return. Old age is ultimately a practice of living alone. Only those who are thoroughly prepared can face old age without loneliness and fear. The first of the 5 preparations for being happy alone in old age is a true friend whom you can comfortably meet at any time. A fancy house, successful children, and a healthy body are all nothing without people. Among them, just one friend whom you can comfortably meet at any time can completely change your life in old age. Even if you lose everything, if you have that friend, you won't be lonely. On the other hand, even if you seem to have everything in the world, if you don't have anyone to share your heart with, life is like a cold prison. Your eyes become dim when you just stare at the television screen, and tears flow for no reason when you hear someone else's story on the radio. You can't say a word for days. And when your phone vibrates, you rush to it only to see an advertisement text. You throw yourself on the sofa with a hollow laugh, feeling like no one will know if you disappear. However, if you have a friend, you can meet comfortably at any time. The situation changes completely. You need someone you can share your innermost feelings with over a cup of coffee, and someone you can go to the market or the hospital with and laugh with. A true friend who is not just an acquaintance, but someone you can share your heart with without embellishment. Such a person is like a lifeline in your old age. This is a time when conversation is more precious than money. When silence becomes routine, you fall into deep thought and eat away at yourself. No matter how healthy you are, if you are consumed by loneliness, your body will slowly collapse. Death from loneliness is not a distant story. It can be our neighborhood, our next-door neighbor, or even your own story. You should let go of the desire to rely on your children to live. Your children live busy lives, and we are not the center of their lives. If you make a sudden phone call to our loneliness, it is obvious that they are annoyed, and if you see them often, it can sound like nagging. The more you do that, the more your heart shrinks, and eventually you choose silence. However, people who have true friends are different. A warm word like, "Shall we have a meal together?" can be a great comfort. In fact, an old woman who had been locked in her room for several years after her husband passed away started a new life through a chance meeting with a neighbor. The conversation that started while sharing an umbrella led to a precious relationship, where they went for walks together every day, shared side dishes, and spent holidays together. One day, when the old woman suddenly collapsed, her life was saved thanks to the neighbor. A friend is not something grand. It is someone you can comfortably meet when you want to see them. Someone you can call for no particular reason. Someone who will come to you even when you are gone. That is the kind of person. If you don't have someone like that by your side, now you should make one before it is too late. In the end, only people remain. And the most important person in old age is the one friend you can always visit with a smile. The second preparation for an unshakable life in old age is a stable monthly income. In the face of time, children, friends, homes, and even health lose their strength. However, a stable income that is not forgotten and comes into your bank account every month is different. Even if the money comes in only for one day, that day supports your entire old age. It is the only support that allows you to live your life on your own without relying on anyone. Old age without a stable income is painful. Money is insufficient, but the world constantly demands money. After receiving treatment at the hospital, you sigh, and after swiping your card at the pharmacy, you check your bank account balance. Even a single electric bill makes you suffocate. Advertisements for a happy old age are shown on TV, but the reality is harsh. Old people without a stable income live every day in anxiety and fear. Even a single meal is burdensome, and you can't even think about making a dental appointment. Even if your body hurts, you endure it. The phrase, "What else can I fix at this age?" is not a resignation, but a statement made because you have no money. This is the current reality of old age. A stable income is not just money. It is dignity. It is the minimum guarantee that you can live without anyone's help. The confidence that you don't have to rely on your children, don't have to ask for help from your friends, and don't have to worry about what the world thinks starts with a stable income. Even if it's late, even if it's a small amount, if that money comes in consistently, people gain the strength to live again. The lives of those who currently receive a stable income and those who don't are like heaven and earth. The rhythm of life itself is different. You go shopping, make hospital appointments, and go out based on the day. The money comes into your bank account. Just the fact that money comes in changes your attitude toward the day. Even your body feels less sore. It's because your mind is at ease. A stable income that comes in every month, without stopping, is not just a simple amount of money. It is the freedom, choice, and leisure of life in old age. It is a strong safety net that prevents you from feeling sorry for your children and being discouraged by the world. That's why one of the 5 things you must have in old age is a stable income that doesn't stop. It is the only power that allows you to live as a person, not as money. Old age, the third preparation for a blooming life, finding my own joy. When we were young, we spent our time busy earning money and raising our children. But at some point, our children leave, work stops, and we are left alone. That's when we realize what will fill our empty homes is our own joy, our hobbies. Old age without hobbies is empty. Even when we open our eyes in the morning, we can't find a reason to get up. We just stare blankly at the TV in the living room and let time pass. If this kind of time repeats, our lives change terribly. Our heads become dizzy, our mouths become stiff, and our hearts sink. The end result is depression. When these 3 things come at once, a motionless body, a closed mouth, and a dark expression, our lives in old age slowly fall apart. Even the people around us ask, "Why are you so quiet these days?" and close their hearts again to those words. They lock themselves in their rooms and blame themselves, saying, "I'm useless now." Old people without hobbies age faster than we think. No, they fall apart. Their minds and bodies sink at the same time. A hobby is not just a game. It is survival. It creates a rhythm to the day and makes us alive again. It gives us a reason to get up in the morning and a topic to talk about with people. When you move your hands, your heart moves. When you become interested, your life is energized. In this way, a hobby is a lifeline that holds us back as we age. The scariest thing about old age is doing nothing. If you do nothing, you won't think about anything, and then you won't feel any meaning. When life becomes just killing time, that's when we gradually prepare for death. A hobby breaks that scary cycle. A small, simple pleasure changes your entire old age. A 78-year-old woman living in Florida stayed in her room for a long time after her husband passed away. She became distant from people, and her contact with her children became rare. She sat in the same place from morning to night, eating snacks or bread instead of meals, and just lived. Her eyes became cloudy, she spoke less, and she lost weight. If she continued like this, it was only a matter of time before she ended up in the hospital. Then one day, she happened to see a poster for an embroidery class at a local community center. When I was young, I had never sewn properly, but that day I was strangely drawn to it. At first, it was awkward, but when I picked up a needle and thread and sewed my first stitch on the fabric, my heart strangely warmed up. When I focused, I couldn't think of anything, and I felt a small joy in the patterns the thread created. And most of all, I smiled again when I greeted the other seniors who came to the classroom. Now she goes to the welfare center twice a week to embroider. At home, whenever she has time, she thinks of new patterns and feels proud when she gives her children handmade towels. Recently, she participated in a local flea market and sold an apron she made. She says that when it sold, she couldn't express in words the emotion she felt. Who would have thought that someone would buy something I made with my own hands at this age? She says every morning when she opens her eyes these days, "What pattern should I sew today?" You should have at least one hobby. That becomes the reason for old age and the meaning of living each day. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. Small and trivial joys make life sparkle again. In the end, in a world where everything is useless, the only thing that keeps us going is that one hobby. The fourth preparation for old age is pruning relationships. When we were young, we were proud of knowing many people, and we believed that connections were assets. We would constantly receive text messages on our birthdays. Drinks would be exchanged at gatherings, and our phone book would be filled with names. However, as time passes, there are few people left. No, it's okay to say that there are none. Rather, as we get older, we need to organize our relationships to feel better. Unnecessary relationships are like poison. Fake interest, shallow affection, people who only contact us when necessary. If we spend time and energy pouring into such people, we will actually become empty. People who don't change no matter how long we keep in touch. People who make us tired when we meet. People who brag or gossip at the end of every sentence. We should boldly cut off such relationships. Life in old age is not good because we have a lot of time. What we fill that time with is important. If we waste our energy hanging out with useless people, we will miss out on what is truly important. My peace, my health, my true happiness disappear, and later I regret it. Why didn't I cut that person off back then? Children, siblings, and old friends are no exception. If they don't respect me, only seek me out when they need me, and don't consider my situation at all, then that relationship is just a waste of emotion. Even if they are blood-related family, they don't share their hearts. A true relationship ultimately starts from the heart. The more people you have, the better. If there is even one person who smiles sincerely, that's enough. As you get older, one relationship that makes you comfortable is enough. However, most people suffer from a sense of obligation to maintain relationships. They worry that they will be scolded if they don't contact you, that they will be left out if they don't go to gatherings. So they force themselves to smile and eat. Who is this life really for? Now you need to know how to cut them off. You need to sort out unnecessary relationships and focus on the people who are truly important to you. One person who you can connect with without saying a word. Someone who quietly holds your hand when you are sick. Someone who listens to your stories. That's enough. The rest is just emotional garbage that needs to be sorted out. Here is a woman who never misses a gathering of friends. Every month, the group chat room is full of schedules. And on the day of the gathering, she always wears new clothes. However, she always felt bad on the way back. Some people bragged about their husbands. Some bragged about their children. And some bragged about photos from their overseas trips. She just listened and barely managed to pay for her meal. After the gathering, the group chat room would say, "I had fun today." But she just sighed bitterly. One day, someone in the group chat room said to her publicly, "Hija, you should bring some good news too." Those words pierced her heart like a knife. That night, she quietly left the group chat room. Since then, not a single person has contacted her. She felt empty thinking, that was all. But strangely, her heart felt light. After that, she started going to a poetry reading club, introduced by the apartment management office. At first, she was awkward, but as she read the poems, her heart calmed down, and after the reading, she was moved by the warm applause they gave each other. There was no boasting or comparison. Everyone was respected for their story, and they laughed, cried, and sympathized with each other. She says, "Now, I'm happy if just one person contacts me. That person is real." Unnecessary human relationships are a burden in life. In old age, the more you reduce, the more free you are, and the more you organize, the happier you become. In the end, all that's left is one person who makes you feel comfortable. Now you have to organize your surroundings. That's how your heart expands. That's a truly wise old age. The fifth step for a happy life in old age is to find your true self in a quiet life. When we were young, we thought that living in a noisy world was all there was to life. We had to turn up the music loudly, always went to crowded places, and felt anxious if we didn't have an appointment even for a day. However, when we look back as we get older, we realize that all that noise was just noise that exhausted us. True life begins in silence. The noisy world doesn't even give us a moment to breathe. The news constantly encourages anxiety, and cell phones ring incessantly. The TV only repeats provocative stories. And when we go outside, the sound of horns and people yelling tires our minds. It's hard to find a place to sit comfortably and rest. Living in this noisy world as we get older is like walking through a sandstorm with our bare bodies. In the midst of all this, some people still desperately want to be recognized by others. SNS is filled with pictures of smiling faces and boastful posts. Bragging about your children, bragging about your trips, bragging about your new car. But there is only emptiness inside. Living a life to show off to others is ultimately like erasing yourself. True peace comes when you take a step back from it all. The moment you quietly drink a cup of tea and look out the window, life begins to breathe again. A quiet life is not an escape from reality. It is a choice. It is a decision to no longer be swayed by external noise and to listen to the voice within. That decision changes your life, protects your health, and clears your mind. While others are talking, we find ourselves in silence. It is not a challenge, but recovery. Loneliness and silence are different. Silence allows us to look inside ourselves and discover small happiness within ourselves. A well-organized room, soft music, and a book of our own are enough. Now, we must not be overwhelmed by people. We must get away from noisy gatherings, forced laughter, and tiring conversations to meet our true selves. One day, an old man came back from a gathering and looked at his face in the mirror through the clothes he had taken off in a hurry. His eyes were empty and his expression was tired. That day, he realized for the first time, "Why am I so tired?" After that day, he stopped attending gatherings on his own. He politely declined phone calls and deliberately changed his walk times to early mornings, when there were no people around. At first he was afraid of the silence, but soon his mind became at ease. He began to hear whispers of the world that he had not heard before, such as the sound of the sun rising, the birds chirping, and even the sound of coffee boiling. These days, he wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning, sits in a chair and quietly drinks coffee. Instead of the noisy TV, he turns on classical radio and writes down sentences that come to his mind each day in a notebook. On weekends, he goes to the library alone, and after his walk, he waters a small flower pot. It may seem boring to others, but he says, "I'm the busiest and happiest these days. My mind is busy." A month ago, when a friend who used to attend gatherings with him called and said, "We don't see each other enough," he said this, "I want to be closer to myself than to people now. I really like being alone." When my friend heard that, he was silent for a moment and then replied, "I think I know what you mean. A quiet life is not a shadow of old age. Rather, it is the moment when you are most like yourself, escaping from the noisy world and returning to the center of your life is true peace and true freedom. In the end, what remains is your true self in silence. One of the 5 things you must have in old age is the freedom to enjoy a quiet life. Only then can we smile. Dear subscribers, the life you live for others is over. Now is the time to live a true life for yourself, not a life to show off. Life begins again from the moment you acknowledge that everything is useless. You must start creating a way to be the best even when living alone.